Come vi dicevo prima, un altro dei key point di oggi è quello di parlare di quelle che sono proprio le strategie e le tecnologie per degli impianti sicuri ed efficienti. Per questo motivo abbiamo chiesto l'intervento di una persona di GE, una persona sicuramente di alto livello perché è Global Marketing Leader di GE Digital, una persona che è in GE da veramente tantissimi anni, conosce la filosofia della multinazionale americana e ci colleghiamo proprio con lui. Ciao Bernard.
Hey, ciao Francesco, how are you?
So it's a pleasure to have you here. And my only question to start your speech is, what's the vision and what's the mission for GE in the water and wastewater?
That's a good question, Francesco. And I have a couple of slides that will probably answer the audience question. So first of all, thank you for having me. As you said, I'm responsible for the global marketing. We've been in the water business for a long time. So let me share my screen and I will explain and answer your question. So again, we have looked at the customer challenges, and this is what you see here. There's more than these challenges that are listed on the screen, but they basically fall in these buckets, which are about risk, minimizing risk, reducing the cost, whether it's the cost of energy, and looking at availability and reliability of the application. So all this with the goal of delivering clean water to the customers, or if you're talking about wastewater treatment, not releasing something that's dirty into the environment. So that's what we've been doing for many years. And if you're not familiar with our solutions, we have applications all around the world. So if you want to know more, you can go to our website and you will see some of our applications. So I have a map that I put together for North America. I mean, our HMI SCADA is very popular in many applications. And you can see
Sorry,
here a
Bernard.
Google map of what we're doing.
I'm very sorry, Bernard. We have a little technical issue. We can see the slide. So can you share your screen?
Okay, let me try again. Okay, the system says I'm sharing, so let me unshare and share again.
Come dicono.
Okay, let me know when you can see the screen.
Credo che ci stiamo
Can you see it?
arrivando. Ok. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Sorry about that. So let me start real quick. So I was talking about the three main buckets behind the water, wastewater. And that's what I was explaining a minute ago about minimizing risk, reducing costs, and improving availability and reliability with the goal of delivering clean water and also releasing safe water to environments if you're talking about wastewater treatment. So there are more behind each of these buckets. And what I wanted to do, back to your question, Francesco, is show you how we can help water companies save money and make sure that they have a reliable application. So my next slide was about the applications that we serve. So I encourage you to go to our website. We have a lot of applications that we have documented. And many are in Europe actually, and I know we have many in Italy specifically. But I have a map just for you to know about some of the applications that we've developed in the US over the past years. And just for you to know, we've been in this business for a long time, so it's over 35 years. So we've seen this, I would say, the requirements changing over the years, but fundamentally, I think that the main sort of challenges are the same for our water wastewater customers. And what we've seen changing over the years is that we've had obviously more technology at our disposal to help you solve your challenges. And my point is that it really starts with data. So if you want to talk about digitalization and what Francesco was calling Water 5.0, you look at data and you see that this is foundational. So there are different steps in processing data. It first starts with collecting data. A lot of applications and plants in Europe are pretty old, so they don't have a lot of instrumentation. And this is the challenge for many people, including for you, I guess, on this webinar, that collecting data can be a challenge because of the nature of the applications. Maybe they are remote applications or remote equipment that is not equipped with sensors, but also due to the fact that this is really spread around, let's say, geographically spread, and this is the nature of the business, by the way. So the idea behind the good digitalization would be that you make sure that you collect the data, you collect the right data, and for this we have tools, obviously, that can help. And the idea is to make sure that you can store and normalize this data. So what's behind normalizing the data? That's putting data in context, making sure that they are consistent across the applications, so that later in the process, you can really make some analysis and produce some reports, etc., etc. So make basically good use of your data. So as I said, the next step is really to distribute the data, not only for visualization for the HMI SCADA, but also to maybe have some kind of big data analytics moving forward. And I will give you a couple of examples in a minute. So what we have seen also, and what the technology now allows us to do, because we have all this nice, I would say, remote clients, and that SCADA is not what it used to be, it's more flexible these days, is that there's a need for consolidating what used to be islands of information. So I have some examples of applications that are fairly remote, and for example, the reservoirs, which are pretty far from the main SCADA in the main plant usually. And the idea is to consolidate and create a unified view, even though they could be separate entities, like the reservoirs, as I said, wastewater collection, water treatment plants. If you want to have a global view of what's happening, then next step in digitalization is probably to try to see if you can have a unified SCADA, at least from a control point of view. So I think the idea that we have more accessible tools, so we democratize the tools so that they are accessible through the entire organization, really helps. So that will give you a very easy and instant outcome, which is about visualization across all the plants and the network. So that will allow you to do some global reporting, and that's really priceless when it comes to compliance and when you have to do reporting for environmental purpose, for example. And that goes through a concept that we've developed, which is about connected workers. So connected worker means it's not only about being connected to the application from the control room, which was the case years ago. The control room still exists in many applications, but people want to have access to the information where they are and in context. So that's, for example, having access to the information in the field. That could be through your smartphone, that could be through, I don't know, maybe a PC that's connected through Wi-Fi or for radio link, but also from home. I mean, we've seen with the COVID that there's a need for the workers and all the people in the chain to be able to connect to the applications. So we've developed very, very early, as far as G is concerned, tools that allow you to do some control from anywhere in the world, basically, and connect to applications. And that goes together with something I just wanted to highlight. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, but it's about the high performance HMI. So the goal being that you want the people to easily recognize what's happening and if there is something bad happening in the application. So that's what we've developed over the years. Basically, the high performance HMI is what you see on the right side. It's not having like, Christmas trees on the screen, but very simple, easy to understand for the operator screens and visuals. So that means less time spent navigating. We consider there's 2 clicks in the maximum when you work with a SCADA. And the outcome is really that you need to be able to find critical information really fast if something happens. So we've experimented this in different markets. So water wastewater market, obviously, but also in the process market, chemical, etc. And they basically share the same requirement that at the end of the day, the operators and the people who need the information need to be able to access this information really fast. And mobility is part of it. So mobility speeds up troubleshooting. You see here a real application on the right side. And that's Haverhill on the east side of the US, the East Coast. And just for you to know, we've been one of the first companies introducing this kind of tool for the operators. So they're using iPads, and they can connect to the system wherever they are, even outside the plant. So the idea again is to get the information directly in the hands of people who need it, and the right information so that they can respond to alarms, they can respond to maintenance issues, etc., etc. So we've developed kind of a guidebook for you to use. And if you want to know more, we have this guidebook that's available from our website. It's called The Connected Worker, and you see here some of the tips that we've developed in terms of making your SCADA more secure, in terms of the implementation, the alarms, digitizing work processes, etc., etc., up to the implementation of high-performance HMI. So that's a really cool guidebook. I think we have like 70 pages that describe in detail what I just mentioned in this past 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So if we want to talk about costs specifically, and this comes from the US CPA, but I don't think that's very different in Europe. The main costs about water treatments in the plants are about energy, staffing, and chemicals. And there are two aspects where we can, let's say, add value as a software company, and where software can help. Let's put it this way: that's energy and chemicals. So I was talking about collecting data, and we've developed sort of this virtuous circle that's about connecting, collecting, archiving, monitoring. And a lot of applications today really go across this yellow sort of arch here, which is about automation and visualization and monitoring. But we believe that digitization means that you have to go further down the road here. And that means analyzing the data, predicting what's happening, and at the end, optimizing the applications. And a lot of people do this. I mean, they do the first part of the journey because they have to, for, let's say, regulatory control purpose, for example. So obviously, they collect data, and they need to show whoever is the regulatory organization on top what they are doing, and that they are doing the right thing for the environment, etc., etc. But very few people take the extra step, I would say, in analyzing the data and trying to optimize the application based on the analysis. So a couple of applications that we've developed across the world, and this one is in the US, but we also have some in Europe that do the same. It's about trying to predict what's happening, building basically a model of what's happening in real time, what has happened, and then applying it to the real-time application. So basically collecting data, getting this data and the connection to have a centralized monitoring and control. And that's the important piece, being able to predict what will happen based on the influent quantity and some critical parameters with a product that's off the shelf. So what we've done is pretty impressive of this customer, is that we've improved the process, and we worked on what's the most cost-effective level, I would say, which is about energy reduction. So they have experienced a 30% energy reduction after 50 days of operation, which is absolutely huge. And in the meantime, we've developed a new interface so that the operators can work better with the application. That's one application that's a small one. So the intelligent water journey, as I say, is sort of from control to information to analysis. So basically, creating a model of the application, and then in real time, you compare what's happening against the model. And the idea is that the model can see things and understand what's happening better than the human eyes, basically. Because the human eyes can really see what's the current status. So basically, a snapshot. If you're a good operator, you can maybe see some deviations, but minor deviations, optimization can only be achieved through software. And there is this one which is really interesting, which is very specific about biochemical oxygen demand. So if you're in the water business, you know what it means. And it's really about, at the end of the day, reducing chemical consumption. So same thing, we've developed a model. And instead of having to go to the lab and wait for the results, which takes usually a few days, probably not 4 or 5 days, but maybe a few days, to predict or understand the BOD demands, so the BOD estimation, let's say, then the system can do it in almost real time. So that means that you can anticipate on what's going to happen. And there are two outcomes here. One is about avoiding compliance. So obviously, making sure that what you release in the environment is clean. And that's associated to some fines. And in this case, that was about $100,000 annually. And number two is even more important. That's a reduction in chemical consumption. That's depending on the plant can be between 17. I mean, I have an example that's in France will reduce the amount of chemical consumption by 17%. And people thought there was not much, but I think that's a lot at the end of the year. And it could be up to 20-25%. So in this case, that was more in the range of 20%. And last but not least, there is something that you can do with the analytics. Again, in this idea that the digitalization can help you in different aspects of the operations. One is managing alarms in a better way. We've done some interviews in different businesses in Europe and the US. And a lot of people think that managing alarms is still a big challenge for them. And in terms of, for example, having the operators running around to fix things that are maybe false alarms, and there is nothing to fix actually at the end of the day. And on the other hand, being able to react to real alarms really fast. So the objective with, let's say, advanced analytics, but also with the implementation of decent digitalization, is to reduce the number of alarms. That's what we've done in many applications, reducing the number of alarms by 75%, which is huge. So, for example, reducing the number of alarm cascades. But when an alarm comes, you obviously have linked alarms, and reducing this to a single alarm for the operator. And also use machine learning to look at the raw alarms in the system. So just as a quick example, you have alarms that could come again from values going up and down against the bandwidth. And what you can do is to run some statistics on these alarms and understand the root cause. Root cause could be just, this is an asset that's behaving in a funny way. So we've done this with a very specific piece of equipment like a pump. And if you put specific analytic against a pump that looks at, for example, the temperature or the vibration, etc., you can trigger alarms that detect an anomaly rather than relying on the operator that maybe hear some noise and understand there's something wrong. But the system will tell you in advance, and maybe that will avoid the pump to just burn or fail. And that means you can take the right corrective actions and be proactive on the analytics. So just as a conclusion, I would say, yeah, technology allows us to democratize all these tools. And that will give you greater access when I talk about the SCADA, faster response time, you talk about alarming, operational agility, basically. The analytics are priceless. They will allow you to go the extra mile. So they will give you advanced warning, more decision-making information. So basically more information so that I can make informed decisions, if I can say so. And on the other hand, you have the deployment of all the tools we have today, which is about remote access, mobile operations, that's reduce operations cost. I have an example in the north of the US where people have developed this mobile approach to solving problems. And they got their money back in really 3 months because people didn't have to drive, and they reduced the amount of time that these people had to spend in their car. They reduced the cost, obviously, associated with the travel around the application. And last but not least, what we've said is that we can work on the two main levels when it comes to cost reduction. One is energy, and the other one is chemical consumption. And we've seen really drastic improvements in these two fields using digital tools, whether it's just simple analytics or analysis, or going up to, let's say, complex analytics affecting an entire asset. So in a nutshell, that's what I wanted to share you about digitalization and the tools that we can develop to improve all these KPIs at the end of the day.
Sì, grazie mille Bernard, un intervento sicuramente molto interessante che fa capire come i dati siano veramente il primo punto dove andare a cercare del valore nel settore degli acquedotti. Si raccolgono dati anche semplicemente per motivi di regolamentazioni, questi dati possono essere sicuramente sfruttati al meglio tramite gli analytics, tramite meccanismi di machine learning, insomma ci sono davvero tante potenzialità. Mi spiace non si siano viste le prime slide che ha mostrato Bernard perché erano contenuti alcuni casi studio adesso vado a memoria, ma credo che ci siano circa 3500 tra utility e multi-utility in tutto il mondo che utilizzano le tecnologie di GE e che stanno parlando con i vari distributori locali per capire come andare ad implementare questo genere di soluzioni, come rendere sempre gli acquedotti ancora più efficaci. Quindi grazie Bernard, chiedo di rimanere collegato nel caso in cui ci fosse qualche domanda per lui, e passerei sicuramente a quello che è l'argomento successivo.